that come consistently is, well, so the prize is the lessons you gleaned from the last 5 weeks of showing up to class, and the ability to stand before your creator in a couple days and say, like, look at me, I'm doing it. Like, I said I was going to do something. I deserve another year because, like, I could keep with the program. But really, the lessons, this is like the lessons, the test, the prize is your life, right? Like, we don't even know how incredible the merit will be for a good thing that we do in the next world. Like, this is just a blimp in something so much bigger. So I think everyone that shows up for any spiritual endeavor could give themselves a pat on the back, because there's so many other things that are pulling at us. There's so many other places we could choose to be, but for all of us that are choosing to be here and to learn and to give time and money and support or whatever it is that you do for the Chaim Center, I think like that is the prize, right? Does that make sense? But we do have a little gift for all of you, and you guys will help. Yeah, we're going to give it now because I know some people need to leave early, and I feel bad for the people on Zoom because they're not here to get one. But if you were here, you would get one, and we have extras. So those of you that want to come pick it up. So this was an idea that we came up with, the leadership board, which is an amazing group of women, some of whom are standing up in the back, very modestly there, and you guys could help. You could sit, you could be anonymous, but everyone, we're always wanting to give to you guys because you give so much to us. So can I just see one so I can glass container of matches, and it says, a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. Find your spark with us at L'Chaim Center. And then you strike on the bottom, and it's so classy and cute. And you can put it next to your Shabbat candles and holiday candles. And there's a lot of holidays coming up and a lot of lighting candles. And I said to the leadership board today, I said, we're kind of like, we're slightly pyromaniacs. We really are. We're very
Hold on to mine. I want it.
Sparks. So take your spark, your neshama, and make it into a bonfire. Like, keep it aflame. Isn't it amazing? So, okay, so I have a little favor to ask you, okay? So as this was developing and we were so excited, and Katie Asner, who has a business called A Wink and a Nod, is that what it's called? Yeah, I would shout out to Katie Asner because she made them all, okay? So Katie Asner, we started talking. I know we're so excited about the matches. We can't even concentrate. So Katie puts this all together. She's my little angel, and she's very into the details. So like at first the strikers on the bottom were like half a milliliter too small. So we reordered, like it has to be perfect with Katie. And the colors, like she wanted it to be different blues. Like we love Israel over here. So as this idea was coming to fruition, we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we made 100 of them, okay, and to give out to all the women that join us for classes. So we're going to have extras, and you can come pick it up, or we'll give it to you at next classes. But we thought, wouldn't it be nice if every woman would either take a picture of them with their Shabbat candles. Roz, this is so up your alley, right? She's all about her Shabbat candles and painting pictures with them. Yes. So either to take a picture of your Shabbat candles with this next to it, or of you with it, or of you lighting your Shabbat candles, as long as it's before Shabbat, because we don't want to take pictures on Shabbat. But either way, if you could send us a picture, and if you're brave enough to post it on social media and say like hashtag, hold on one second, I'm going to tell them to send it to you also. You could either send it to Julie and she'll post it, or you could post it on your own social media. It'll go so much further if you post it on your own pages. But you could do the hashtag. What did Katie write? What was on our leadership chat? It was like, find your spark. No, it was today. It was like 10 minutes ago. So like hashtag find your spark at L'Chaim Center. Okay. So this could really spread the news. Which one? You could do both. L'chaim, light my fire, or find your spark. Okay, whatever you want. Whatever you want. If you guys want to do it on your own, you could do it on your own. Hashtag, you know, like tag us, tag L'chaim Center. And if you don't want to post it, send it to us. We'll post it on our L'chaim page. But let's spread the light. I got a message yesterday, and this is actually something that I'm very passionate about. You guys know that we keep on making challahs and chicken soup, and someone sent me a message that in the next month, there are 24 holiday or Shabbat meals. Wow. Now, that's a lot of meals for someone that is single or going through something. That's a lot of together time, and sometimes there aren't people to be together with. So I also want to just say, first of all, everyone is welcome to my home. If anyone ever needs a meal, just send me a message and we'll put you in for a meal. For sure, for sure. I hope everyone knows that already. But if anybody is alone or maybe, you know, doesn't want to go out, help yourself to soup and challah. And as soon as we start, you know, running out, I'll just keep making more. So really, that's something that I really love doing. I love that L'chaim sponsors that project, and enjoy your matches. Enjoy. You look amazing. And this for Instagram. Oh, that we can get out there. Okay, just so much on her. Okay, so and I just want to share about the time flow of this class. So Gloria had a really good question. So today was the end of this 5, you know, without any breaks. Next Tuesday is Rosh Hashanah, and I will be teaching here, same time, same place. Wow. Okay. So whoever wants to come to a regular Tuesday class, actually I'm co-teaching with Susie Futterman. So, which is such a treat. If you haven't heard Susie, I mean, come for Susie, not for me, because she actually puts a lot of work into her classes. I just talk out of okay. But so no, but Susie's already like, what are we doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I really highly suggest you guys give it a try. Come next Tuesday for services if you're coming, or if you just want to come in for the class and go, that's also fine. So second day of Rosh Hashanah, Tuesday here, it's the same time, right? Or maybe it's at 10. I think it's at 10, but we were talking, right. So yeah, I'd love for you guys all to be here. Okay, so, and then the following Tuesday is Erev Yom Kippur, okay? And now I did put it out to some women that it is a custom for women and men, for anyone, to immerse in the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur. So all Sunday long, I'm taking women at different intervals throughout the day. And there will be a few going on the actual Erev Yom Kippur. So if anyone is interested in that, you can talk to me about it. We'll try to find you a time slot. So Erev Yom Kippur, we're not going to be having class here, okay? But obviously Tuesday night starts Yom Kippur with Lori Palatnik, and you know, then Wednesday, the whole day, we have classes and services at the Northbrook Renaissance Hotel. Is that what it's called? So you'll definitely get a lot of learning if you come to that. Okay, I think that's it, and then we'll just continue on. Yes, I want to dedicate today's learning in the merit of our dear friend Chana Bat Penina. She should have a refuah shalema, a speedy recovery, and only good things for this coming year. We all love you very, very much. Okay, so our sages tell us Okay, this is the quote. This is the big quote. I remember teaching it last year. You might want to write this down. As I'm coming in, one person tells me like their son got hit in the head and their daughter is struggling with this. And I mean, literally like every 5 seconds, we all have a lot of tsaras, and we've all had a year, right? None of us is exempt. So this quote of our sages is, let the old year end with all of its curses, and let the new year begin with all of its blessings. Okay, isn't that powerful? It's just because whatever was, we're trying to go into this new space with positivity. So actually, when bad things happen right before the end of the year, it's almost like a relief. Let's get it out of the way. Okay, like, right, Barry? Like, you're like, only good things this year because you've just been through so much with the loss of your dad. But it's towards the end of the year. So in a way, you should hang on to this and say, you know what? It's been a rough few months, but let's now turn a leaf and only blessings ahead. And we could all think about our year and what we've been through. And it's, we're still in this weird space with COVID. Are we in COVID? Are we out of COVID? So that brings me to coming together on Rosh Hashanah, okay? Because the last couple years have been a little weird, right? It's so our nature to come together and hug and shake hands and eat lavish kiddushes. And that's Rosh Hashanah. That's how it's always been. And the last couple years we're behind masks, behind, the chazan is behind his box, or, different shuls did it differently. But did you have that in your synagogue? Like the plastic, there's been all types of weird things to separate us. There's no hugging, there's no touching. At best, we're elbow bumping, right? And to be honest, many of us have not had normal Rosh Hashanahs and Yom Kippurs for 2-3 years already, right? And to be really honest with everyone here, because we're all friends, recruitment for the high holidays has been very slow. And I'm almost wondering if so many years of having a different reality has changed us in the way that we're not running back to be together. Because there's so many excuses for us not to come together. I mean, why should you pay a fee for high holidays if you could get it for free on Zoom? Why should you many times it's the man that is like not interested. Many times it's the woman. There's usually one part, the kid is not interested, but it's so easy to give an excuse. Well, it's still COVID. I mean, I'm not comfortable. There are many, many excuses. It's the norm not to show up. But I want to just look at both sides of this, okay? It's really, really interesting to analyze it because it's not only me that's experiencing it. I'm connected to rebbitzins and rabbis all across the world, and everyone is seeing this and experiencing it in their community. So the Jewish world is changing drastically. So I just want to look at history and look at high holidays. There are many Jews that call themselves 2-day-a-year Jews. Is that like even a thing? Is that a thing, or is it 3-day-a-year Jews? Is it 3-day? Whatever. Like, meaning they're high holiday Jews. Okay. That's what my parents were. I think they did some of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur when they were growing up in Montreal, but that was basically it. That was the only time they ever stepped into a synagogue, right? So it's been an interesting history of coming together for the holidays and coming together as communities to pray, to celebrate. If you go all the way back to the first temple, the first synagogue, what was the first synagogue even? When did we gather as a community for the very first time as it was like a synagogue space? Does anyone know? Good, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, that's when we left Egypt. We're born as a people, really, and we're traveling for those 40 years. God has set up a tabernacle, and we traveled with it. We took it apart, we put it back together. We traveled 40 spots. We kept on taking it apart and putting it back together. And that was our first synagogue, our first shul. And then when we get into the land of Israel, what do we have? The Holy Temple, the Beit HaMikdash. That was the synagogue, the largest synagogue probably in the world, right? But that was our synagogue. That was the space where God said, build me a place that I could put my Shekhinah in it, my holy presence. And now, interesting to say that Shekhinah, this is totally a tangent, but the word for God's highest essence is in the feminine. Okay, so we don't even, we often say he, like for God, like he's almighty or whatever. But really, when God is at his highest, when he's so happy with the people, with the Jewish people, he is a she. Okay. So God's presence dwells within us. And God said, build me a space. Then what happened? We don't have a temple. We had one, got destroyed. We had another one, got destroyed. Okay. No temple. It's been 2,000 years. So when God actually tells us to build the sanctuary, the words are very telling. It says, build me a sanctuary, singular, and I will dwell within you, plural. That God already put into the DNA of what was going to happen to the Jewish people, that we wouldn't always be in a space to physically come together. But that's okay, because every single Jew is a mini sanctuary. We are the temple. We are a vessel for godliness in this world. So God says, I will dwell amongst you. You, Adrian, you are all that you need. You, Sue, you are everything. You don't even need to go to synagogue to have that connection. Okay. And there have been many years, for 11 years, I was either pregnant or nursing, 11 years straight. Okay. And especially on Yom Kippur, I'm a terrible faster. And when I was pregnant, I was still fasting. And there were years that I didn't even make it off the couch, barely even had 5 minutes of strength to open a prayer book. Does that mean that I didn't have a Yom Kippur? No, right? So COVID happened and we were very disconnected from community, from our sense of being, and we're trying to find our way back somehow. So I see Judaism as a pie, okay? And this is, there's so many tangents. There's so many fun tangents we could have here, because a lot of people struggle with Orthodox prayer because there's what? A mechitza, okay? That's like, we could do a whole class on that if anyone is interested, right? It's always, and it could be it's an excuse. It could be people are just not interested. So they say, well, I'm not going to go because there's a separation, right? It's not like the husband and wife even want to be together when it's not shul, but you know, for that hour, like seriously, but for that hour, they have to sit together. And that is, it's like a spoke in the wheel. I hear it all the time. Okay. So let's just scan out, let's pan out, so to speak, and look at Judaism, because this is so basic and important. I see Judaism as a big pie. Okay. A big pie, it's like a jumbo sized pie, 18 slices or 24 slices. It's huge. It's like the biggest pizza pie you've ever thought. And every slice represents a part of Judaism. Now, the synagogue is one slice, but so is ethics, so is charity, so is kashrut, so is relationships. I mean, carry on. What else? I mean, there's so parenting and modesty, and there's so many parts. There's 613 parts to Judaism, and even those 613, there's 70 ways of looking at that. Right? It's so vast and it's so big. But us small-minded people, myself included, we have narrowed Judaism down to one space. That Judaism has its time and place. For some people, it's 3 days a year, and it has to be in the synagogue. So when the synagogue is no longer there, what does this mean for us? So I remember when COVID happened, my husband was a rabbi of a shul, a synagogue in Portland, right? Many of you, I share stories a lot about our 7 years in Portland. It was a very unique community, a Ladino community from an island off of Greece. And very beautiful Jews, very similar to this kind of demographic. Everyone was different. Not too many people were strongly observant, but the strongest, most beautiful Jews I have ever met in my life. I was so inspired by these people. Anyway, so when and I had a flow, right, with being the Rebbitzin. I had another job, but Gadi was the rabbi and I was the Rebbitzin. And I loved my Shabbat mornings because Gadi would go to shul with all the kids. And he would, as he was leaving, he would bring me my coffee and my favorite magazine. And for that hour, I mean, my kids were little, right? So he would take them all with him. They loved going to shul with, like, you know, the children of the rabbi. They were like getting treats and everyone was giving them candies. And that was my 1 hour a week to myself. Like no one saying, mommy, give me this, do me, you know, just myself. my magazine, my coffee, and sometimes he'd bring me like a piece of like cake. You know, it was like literally heaven on earth. And then I remember the week that COVID shut the world down. And I'm not sure if it was a superficial reason why it hit me so hard, but we closed straight away as soon as we heard what was going on in the world, and we all had to wrap our heads around it. I think it might have been a Thursday. It was right after Purim. I remember, I think I'll never forget what it was like to wake up to realize there is no synagogue tomorrow. My kids are not leaving the house for that hour. Okay, I'm superficial. I was, and I remember going into my bedroom, I locked the door, I put the pillow over my head and I cried like a bitter cry. Okay, but there was a lot going on and it took me time to process why I was feeling so much emotion. And part of the reason was because everything that I've always believed to be true about Judaism was now coming true. It's very easy to teach beautiful concepts, but you also have to live them. And what I realized was I was putting so much energy on all the institutions and the synagogues and the schools, and everyone was taking care of my kids' Judaism. And I was able to be a free woman. But all of a sudden, I realized that everything I have learned and taught and know deep down was that it is the woman, it is the home, that is where the Judaism lies. It's not, it's a crutch to have a synagogue and an institution. And that's a crutch because we need to come together because we're weak. We need community. But now we all had to sit in our corners and make it happen on our own. We couldn't be passive. We needed to be active. And that kind of shocked me to my core. Because, you know, when we live in a nice community, it's just easy. You go with the flow, okay, you sign up, okay, you just show up. And that's it. They have the apples and honey, like your kids are going to get it. They're going to get it from wherever you show up. You're going to feel Rosh Hashanah in the air. Okay, so now let's think back to history, okay, to times that it was very difficult to be a Jew. What did they do in those situations? And maybe I'll share one story, even though there's so many stories. So many stories. We are an incredible nation. We really are. One story, I'll just read it, I'll paraphrase it because it's not very long, but it's about Jews in Bergen-Belsen who sacrificed their pot of coffee, which is probably everyone got just a little bit of coffee. They sacrificed it to smuggle in a shofar for Rosh Hashanah. And this is not a fairy tale. This is documented. It's an eyewitness. It's a father and his 12-year-old son that were standing by a gate and a stone was thrown. And they're like, what is going on? Who threw a stone at us? And the father said, do you think someone like a Jew threw a stone? And the son said, yeah, probably. And the father said, Jews don't throw stones. Like, we don't do that. So he bends down, he picks up, there's a little note attached to the stone. And he puts the note in his pocket. And the note was saying, if you get the majority of the camp, like if you could speak to the people, if you want us to smuggle in the shofar, it would be at the sacrifice of you guys not all getting coffee for a day, which could cost their life. I mean, they had so little. If everyone wants this, we will smuggle it in and you will get it on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And he spoke to people and everyone said yes. And that morning, they get the shofar. It was a clear majority. They all gave up their ration. And what the father says to the son is, you see, my son, Jews never throw stones in vain, right? Because there has to be something, or we have a lot of meaning in everything we do. So the next debate that they had, now that they got the shofar, was if it was safe to blow it. Because the mitzvah is to blow it, and to blow a shofar, you have to put all your energy into it, and it's a loud blast. So that was a discussion that they had. You imagine them having a Talmudic discussion, all the rabbis coming together in the barrack in Bergen-Belsen discussing. Now they have it. Their Jews wanted to sacrifice, to have a shofar blown, to do some act of resilience and just stand for what they believed in. And they decided not to blow it loud, to blow it very softly and muffled. And the eyewitness, this young girl that was there, she said she listened to the shofar. She hoped that the sounds of the blast would break down the walls and the barbed wire and everything that imprisoned them, just like the blast of the shofar broke down the walls in Jericho. Right? We have a Torah story about Jericho, this walled city, that it was the blast and all the walls came crumbling down and the Jews were victorious. So can you imagine these Jews thinking like something is going to happen? Look at us, God. We're doing this amazing mitzvah in this hellhole. And she says nothing had changed. The barbed wires remained fixed in their places. Only in the heart did something stir. Knowledge and hope. Knowledge that the muffled voice of a shofar had made a dent in the Nazi wall of humiliation and slavery, and hope that someday freedom would bring down the barbed wire fences of Bergen-Belsen and of humanity. So unbelievable. But there are so many stories of resilience and standing up to come together or to celebrate in a meaningful way. I have a personal experience from many years ago. I was hospitalized in Israel. I was in a pregnancy and I had a very bad urinary tract infection. Like not a big deal, but when you're pregnant and they couldn't figure out what was going on and they lost some of my results, and it was pretty dangerous. And I was bedridden I was there for about a week. And on Shabbat, I begged the doctor to let me get out of bed with my IV and to shuffle down the hall. And I was in Hadassah Ein Kerem, which has this beautiful, very well-known synagogue with the Chagall windows. So I thought, let me go check it out. I'm here, I'm all alone. And I will never forget what I saw. It was such a beautiful sight. It was patients and doctors, everyone in their scrubs or in their, all their hospital garb with their IVs, with their bandages, and everyone is praying. Not an easy time and space for prayer, but yet everyone still came together to find that space because we want to be in that space. Okay. And there are many, many other interesting situations. I'll just say one more and then we'll move on because we have so much to share today. One more incredible story took place during the Spanish Inquisition. And this one I actually just printed this morning, but I highly recommend you printing or at least reading an article that just came out this morning called Pivotal Shofar Blast Throughout Jewish History on Aish.com. I just saw it as I was leaving the house. But I was going to share the story that happened during the Spanish Inquisition that unbelievable. There was a concert in Barcelona, and the orchestrator, the conductor of the orchestra wanted, it was you would punishable by death to be a Jew, right? I mean, there were many people living in hiding as Jews, Marranos or Conversos. There were different names to call them, right? A Marrano actually means pig, right? It's a terrible name, but that's the name that we were named. Those Jews that were holding on to Judaism and resisting in some way. The conductor of the orchestra clearly was a Jew in hiding, and he had all these officials there, all these people from the Inquisition. I mean, these were not friendly people, okay? And he knew that there were many Jews in hiding that were going to be at this concert, and rumors spread that they were going to have an exotic instrument. And in the middle of the concert, they brought out a shofar because the day of the concert was on Rosh Hashanah. And these Jews were not able to listen to the shofar being blown. So they literally sacrificed their life. What a chutzpah. We talk about holy chutzpah that Jews have. This is holy chutzpah, to smuggle in an exotic instrument that no one knew what it was, but it was a shofar. And for all the Jews in hiding if at that concert were able to close their eyes, to listen to it, maybe to utter the blessing to themselves. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar, to listen to the voice of the shofar. And they were able to hear it. Like, this is just, it's unbelievable what we've been through, whether we're separate or together, it doesn't make a difference, right? A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. This story. Amazing. Amazing. And that's from the article on H? Yeah. It's actually, I would highly recommend everyone to read the entire article. Whoever was here on Shabbat, my husband shared a very moving story during Kiddush about how the Western Wall and the Old City was liberated during the 6-day war. And my husband told me, because he was at the front, I was sitting in the back, but he said there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Like everyone, it's such a beautiful story. So they actually, in this article, they share the words. And I mean, I was totally tearing up when Gadi was sharing it. He knows it off by heart. He's heard the recording, and you can get the recording, but I'll share with you the end of it. Okay, so how it goes is, so Yossi Ronen, who's like the commander of the army at this time, there's a recording of him saying, "I'm walking right now down the steps towards the Western Wall. I'm not a religious man. I never have been, but this is the Western Wall, and I'm touching the stones of the Western Wall." And his voice is cracking with emotion. And the soldiers, you hear them next to, this is a recording, it was before cassettes, but he had something on him that was recording it. And you hear the blessing, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, she'achianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Thank you, God, for bringing us to this moment, this day. And then you hear the chief rabbi of the army, Rabbi Goren, he says, he said another bracha, "Blessed are you, our God, who comforts Zion and builds Jerusalem." And you hear all the soldiers saying Amen. There's lots of tears, lots of emotion. You hear it in the recording. They sing Hatikva. They share a prayer for the fallen soldiers. And then Rabbi Goren sounds the shofar. And with the sounds of gunfire in the background, because they're still fighting. I mean, they had just liberated the wall. And he says, "This year, in a rebuilt Jerusalem, in the old city of old." And it's very powerful. Like the shofar has been there through many different times of our history, from the most joyous times to the most painful times. And that's who we are. Okay, now let's talk. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's talk for a second about moments of privacy in Judaism. Okay, because whether you're celebrating, in a synagogue, and I don't know, some of you are members of synagogues with how many members are in your temple? Like thousands? Okay, so that is one experience, and it could be so awesome to be with so many people in a community. And there could be someone that has COVID that's stuck at home, right? And there could be everything in between. We have gotten used to that. There is no normal anymore. So it's also important to know that throughout history, we have had some of the most precious moments in secrecy, within privacy, just ourselves. And some examples I thought of are our forefathers all had direct communication with God. That was always in private, right? We have Jacob fighting with the angel, like this powerful story, right? And we're named after Jacob. We are Yisrael, which means to struggle. We're named after him, his struggle with the angel. We have Moses receiving the tablets on Har Sinai. It was only him that went up there. There was no like, can you imagine nowadays, it'd be like Moses like selfie, you're like, come on, God, it's where we almost don't do anything in privacy anymore, right? Everything is shared with the world, right? Burning bush, right? God and Moses, take off your shoes, come near, I am Hashem. Like we all had to like transmit some of the stories down till today, because it was only a personal eye count witness, like one person that witnessed it, that we trusted, right? And there's something special in that also. So one of the stories I could think about in my life was when I gave birth to my 5th child, who is Shua. A lot of you know Shua. Everyone loves Shua because he's like he has like cheeks like a chipmunk, and he's very cute. He's the bartender. Everyone knows he's the bartender, but he's like a handful, right? Like when Gadi's giving us Dvar Torah, we're like he's always like Yeah, he's joking and he's distracting everyone. So Shua, but when Shua was born into this world, it was 2 minutes before Shabbat. He was born in Denver, Colorado, and literally I barely gave birth before the hospital actually brought me Shabbat candles, which was very, very nice. They knew, like the doctor was like a student of my husband's, and they gave us a nice, like a VIP. Like, I don't think they usually let people light candles, but it was literally 2 minutes before candle lighting. I gave birth and they brought me 2 tea lights and they allowed me to light the Shabbat candles. We didn't have a second to call anybody. I had my other kids waiting for the news. It was like the longest, all my births are so long and drawn out and dramatic, as always. And I couldn't call my parents. They were in Toronto. They were already in Shabbat because it's time difference, whatever. I just, and there is absolutely no story of any of my children coming into this world that feels so sweet to me now, because it was just my husband, myself, this beautiful baby. Friday night, we have a Jewish custom to have what's called a Shalom Zachor, which is like a big party welcoming like the newborn. We have to help the boy. Like, girls are born, they're ready to get their name. Girls are born spiritually complete. Boys need a little help, right? This is another class, but there's 2 different trajectories, like that boys have to climb spiritually and girls need to maintain spiritually. So there's like actually a very interesting dynamic that's it would be interesting having a conversation about that today with all the gender changes in the world. So we had this Shalom Zachor, and no one was celebrating back home. My kids didn't know to celebrate, and it was literally just us in the hospital room, and it was so precious. There was something precious in not having to like right away call and talk, and you're so exhausted, and just to be in privacy. So there's something beautiful in that also. And I just wanted to honor that, okay? For whatever Rosh Hashanah is going to be for everybody. Yes. Okay, so I think we should do a whole class on it, about like the way we could honor everyone, all, different genders, and because we're not meant to be the same. Like, we have to honor the differences. And it's just a different trajectory. And as a rabbi that had taught me this model, it's almost like seeing it as a ladder, that there is a certain energy that feminine, that's more like complete, that needs to be maintained, whereas males are born spiritually incomplete. I mean, physically incomplete. They need a bris milah, and it takes 7 days till they even get their name, and there's actually a few steps until their whole soul actually comes into that. So to honor the differences, because we see it throughout their life. And if you're interested, I could probably get you a recording teaching from Rabbi Feldheim, who taught it to me. So you could Google him, and it is eye-opening, right? Just to honor everyone, where they're coming from. And also, like, part of what we've been doing is kind of knowing our essence. Like, it's kind of just trying to figure out, who are we? So it's just another layer to it, just honoring like some of the struggles, because the struggles are part of you, right? We have Yi'ud and we have the duality of Tikkun. We've been talking about that a lot. The soul's mission and the fixing, and you have both. And in order to figure out your mission, you need to work with both, okay? So now let's transition on. Okay, first of all, any questions? Questions, comments? Okay, so we're gonna talk about Rosh Hashanah today for the next 15, 20 minutes. And talk about the potential for us on this day, okay? So in order to understand what our potential is for this day, which is really 2 days, it's 2 days that's called one long day, okay? It's Yoma Arichta. It's not, there is the first day, there is the second day. Some people only do the first day. It's considered in Judaism as one long day. In Israel, for example, many of the holidays you celebrate more in the diaspora and less. You guys know what I'm talking about? There's like 1 day of Sukkot, meaning 1 day of Yontif, and then we have Chol HaMoed, the intermediary days, and then we have 1 day at the end. That's in Israel, right? And in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, we do 2 days and the intermediary days, and then 2 days at the end. Rosh Hashanah is the only holiday that is 2 days across the world. Israel, America, it makes no difference. It's called one long day, and it's 2 days, okay? And let's try to understand what happened on that original Adam was created. Okay, so it's the last 4 weeks of our learning, trying to figure out what our essence is. We have to look at the essence of man. Okay, when he was created, this is the day that has all the potential for the entire world and for our entire year. Everything is determined on that day because that was the day of creation of man. Okay, so on this day, and I'm going to go hour by hour into the day, what took place. Have you ever learned this, Adrian? No? It's so interesting. Okay? We think we're busy. Okay? God was really busy. Seriously, this is going to make your head spin. Okay? The first hour of the day, Hashem first contemplated making man. Okay? First, Hashem thought, I'm going to make man. Today is the day. Okay? The second hour of the day, God consulted the ministering angels. Okay, in the Torah it says, "Na'aseh Adam," let us make man. Okay, God didn't need anyone's help, but there's a lot there. Like God didn't do all these things without consultation. Like God was not like, oh, I am. Like God also consults with us. We are supposed to fix the world, right? There are holes in this world. God expects us to do acts of kindness and fix the world. Tikkun olam. Okay. So once again, God says, Na'aseh Adam. By the way, when we bring a child into this world, God says to us, let us create. We have the man, we have the woman, and we have God. There are 3 partners in the creation of a child. Okay. So here, God, so we see this again and again. Let us create something. God consults the angels. Let us create Adam. Third hour, God collects the dust of the earth. If anyone was here on Shabbat, I mentioned where was this dust collected from? Does anyone remember? Yes, Temple Mount, Mount Moriah. Okay, Har HaMoriah, Har HaBayit, the house with the home. That's right where the mosque is right now, but that's where the Holy Temple, the Holy of Holies was. That's where God collected that dust and created man. Fourth hour, God prepared it. Okay. Fifth hour, he formed it. Sixth hour, God stood man on his feet. Seventh hour, and 7 is a spiritual number, right? 7 is the number of the days of the week. It's right, and everything on top of 7, like 8 is like the upper worlds. Like there's a lot of spirituality about numbers. So 7 is what we see. Okay, but interesting, number 7. The 7th hour is when God blew a soul into man. Okay, so far we just have this mold of clay. Like literally imagine, like God is like playing Play-Doh. Okay, he's molding man, stands him up on his feet. He's a nothing without a soul. But in that 7th hour, God blows into him, and this is the quote from the book of Genesis 2:7. God blew into man's nostrils his soul, giving him the breath of life. Okay, that's the 7th hour. 8th hour, he brings man into the Garden of Eden. Okay, everything is already in place. There's trees, there's vegetation, right? Everything is like in place to sprout forth. All his needs are going to be met. We have light and sun and water and everything. Okay, Garden of Eden, perfection. Okay, 9th hour, God commands man not to partake of the tree of knowledge. 10th hour, literally 1 hour, and we couldn't hold it together. Man violates this commandment. Seriously, like seriously. Okay, not even 1 hour. Okay, well, that Eve has to come in through the 8th, between the 8th and 9th hour. God brings him into the Garden of Eden, right? I'm not sure, was Eve created before they went into the Garden of Eden? Susie, do you remember that fact? So at some point between there, God says, I'm feeling a little incomplete, God. Could you make me an Ezer Kenegdo, a helper, and a partner? Could you make me a partner in crime? And God puts him to sleep, takes out his rib, creates woman, right? So that happens. It was a busy hour. He was not slacking over here, okay? Yeah, I mean, it could be, I mean, first God makes man, stands him on his feet, puts the soul into him. And then when God comes, when Adam realizes what he is, his tendencies, his natures, his essence, he says, I need a partner. And God creates woman. Okay. So that happens probably between the 6th and the 7th hour, puts them both into the Garden of Eden. But I'm just going with Adam over here. Okay. So Adam sins, obviously, with Eve. Okay. That's in the 10th hour. 11th hour, he was judged. Okay. And get this. This is what makes it all worthwhile telling this whole thing hour by hour. Okay. The 12th hour, he was forgiven. Okay. So there's 1 hour for man to sin, but 1 hour and God has forgiven. Okay. And this is the powerful part of this, because this act of forgiveness is set into the DNA of the day of Rosh Hashanah. And maybe that's why man had to sin on this day. So that now in 2022, we still come to God and say, we've made some mistakes. Please forgive us. And just like God forgave Adam, he's going to forgive us. So let me read you this beautiful quote. So this is, I'm going to read you, this is Piskei Derav Kahana, a commentary. He writes, you are a sign unto your children, just as you were brought before me to be judged, and you emerged forgiven, so too are your children destined to be brought before me on this day to be judged, and they will also emerge forgiven. Okay. Now we go on. There's more about this. Okay. This is in the book of Nehemiah. Okay, which is one of the prophets. It says, what do we do on Rosh Hashanah? Are we supposed to weep and mourn and wear sackcloth and like, pray all day? It's not like Yom Kippur. We're eating, we're feasting, we're getting together, we're laughing, we're smiling, we're wearing new clothes. You would think we would be a little bit more intense about this day. Why buy new clothes? Seriously, we don't know what the verdict is going to be. You have this new suit hanging in your closet. It might not get so much use, right? But our custom is always to buy something new for the holidays. My favorite mitzvah ever. Seriously. As in the Torah, like I show my husband every year, and it says also to buy your wife jewelry. Okay, I'm telling you, jewelry is great. So we're not supposed to weep. We're not supposed to be somber. We're supposed to be joyful and confident. It's almost like we have, like sometimes I tell my 18-year-old son, you have too much confidence. Like you don't think you're invincible. Like don't think you could do whatever you want to do. Like he has so much confidence. Like that's us. We come with so much like chutzpah, almost like this confidence that like, we got this, God, it's going to be good. So this is what the book of Nehemiah writes. By Debbie, right? This is what the book of Nehemiah writes. Do not mourn and do not weep. Eat delicacies and drink sweet things and send gifts of food to those who lack. For the day is holy unto our master. Do not grieve this is the best quote of the whole piece. For God's joy is your strength. Love that. God's greatest joy is our strength. We are one. In this week's Torah portion, whoever was learning Parsha with me on Saturday, I read one of my favorite lines in the Torah. And it's talking about the curses and the blessings. And, the Torah is complicated. And it says, Tachat asher lo avadata et Hashem Elokecha besimcha ubetuv levav, which means bad things will only happen if you don't serve God with joy and a full heart. That is the key. That is the underlying message. There's going to be blessings. There's going to be hard things. Guys, I only want to give you good. Serve me through joy. Serve me through happiness, through celebration. God is saying his greatest joy, that is our strength. So when we come on this day, we lean on our faith. We lean on the fact that God has always forgiven. He performs miracles on our behalf, right? This is in the DNA of the day. It's really, really powerful. Okay, so I think we're going to end. Give me 5 minutes. I want to close with something very practical because we don't have so much more time to really make a change, make a tweak. I don't know, figure out who we are. Did anyone, by the way, has anyone done some Yi'ud work on their own? Like Yi'ud, figuring out what your purpose is. So I'm not going to shout out a name, but it could be someone that's on this call. Actually, 2 ladies on this Zoom call, I spoke to one-on-one about it. One of them, I think, had both of them, I think, had major breakthroughs. One of them has both of them. I don't want one to feel. Can I shout you guys out? If you did personal Yi'ud work with me, could you?
Sure.
Yeah, Sophia. Okay, both of you okay. I'm just gonna take Sophia for a minute because this was the latest one. This was on Sunday. I saw Sophia Dobrin. If anyone knows Sophia, she's a doctor. She's a life coach. She's an incredible mother, incredible human being, and she's been working on this for years. Like it wasn't new material to her, but she did her chart. She wrote it out, and all of a sudden, the tears, the tears, because she touched something that was like, oh my gosh, I just touched a part of my soul. It's so clear to me who I am, and maybe even just the direction that I need to continue going in. And that's kind of the aha moment. So we have Deborah Coven on here, who also kept calling me. Deborah, I love you, Deborah. You could call me, you could text me a million times, but sometimes like I'm in the middle of like doing something and Deborah's like, did you see my text? So Deborah was so excited, just laughing. Thank God. Sometimes she's like, I can't believe you said that. But so Deborah also worked on her Venn diagram and got so much insight. Like it's so exciting to have that, like, and it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's literally like figuring out, just taking a second to think about what you love doing, your talents, the moments in your life that sparked so much joy, and what's the common thing. I mean, Angie, when you were like, you got it, right? When we worked on yours, so amazing. And what we would do if we had all the time and space in the world, and realizing that our soul is a one-time phenomenon. I mean, we've been talking about all these things, that our soul has a unique mission. So okay, so now we're going to just bring some practicality to how many days? Today's Tuesday, so we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days before Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so all right, countdown, it really is. I have not made my brisket yet. That's all I can think about. Okay, so the challenge of the time, and this is not new to anyone here in this room, that the challenge of leading up to the high holidays is to do 3 things: teshuvah, repentance; tefillah, prayer; and tzedakah, charity. And those 3 things are known to uproot an evil decree that might be hanging over us. Okay, we see this 300 times in the prayers on the holidays. Teshuvah, tefillah, tzedakah, ma'avirin et roah hagzera. It's been put to thousands of tunes. Okay, how do we do that? So I think we started talking about teshuvah, this returning. It's a returning to God in a sense, and a real returning to ourself, to our essence. And that's why we spent a month talking about what is our essence. Because if we're going to stand before God and say, hi, this is me, we want to show God that we know who we are and what we have to give. That's why it's important to do this work. And I do it every single year before Rosh Hashanah. I've been doing it for like 7-8 years. This work of figuring out what my mission is, because from year to year, our mission has changed. So we always have to ask God, what do you want from me now? Things have changed. I just got off the phone with my mentor, Aliza Bulow, and I was telling her how I'm grappling with all the changes around me. Like I used to be, is spring chicken like a young person? So she's like, you're not a spring chicken anymore. You're a summer chicken, she tells me. I'm like, thanks. But it's true. It's like changes are happening in my family. There's so much happening. And I'm almost like trying so hard to grapple, and everything has joy and it has mourning. There's a lot of grief in letting our kids go. I think the hardest part of parenting is literally letting them go. I thought it was hard when I had 4 kids in diapers. And my Bobby would say, little kids, little problems, right? But now I get it. It's like holding their emotions and making sure they're protected and making sure they're making, and it's like, you have to let go. They don't even ask you your opinion anymore, right? You have absolutely no control. So it's just that grappling, but that's really facing yourself in the mirror. Like, who am I without all the relations that make me up? When I ask, if I would ask, and if we'd spend 5 minutes now, who are you? And you'd say all the relationships that you are, but that doesn't say anything about you, your essence. So this work is returning to the you that you might not know so well yet, because it's hard to know that real you. So, Teshuvah. Let's talk how to do this. We have 5 days. There are steps, okay? Like everything. It's not just like, you don't just think it and you're there, okay? You don't just click your heels and you're in Oz, okay? So there are 4 steps to Teshuvah, okay? Teshuvah, to returning to the real you, to returning to your best self. Does anyone want to take a stab? Many of you know this, right? Does anyone, Deborah, do you want to give one? No? Okay. I'm telling you, you know this. You've learned this 100 times. Okay. I think this will be very familiar. Okay. So it's a 4-step process of doing Teshuvah. The first step is just to acknowledge. It's just you acknowledging a mistake that you made, acknowledging where you're holding. It's an honest acknowledgement, okay? And it doesn't have to do with anyone else. Your acknowledgement might have to do with someone else, meaning I acknowledge that I hurt somebody, let's say, but you have not taken it out of your thought yet, okay? So the acknowledgement, and then after that is the regret, okay? So once again, first 2 steps have nothing to do with anyone, okay? So the first one is to acknowledge. Second one is to regret, which is, how do you say that in Hebrew? Harata. Harata is regret. Like you admit to yourself or to your creator that you made a mistake. The third one is in Hebrew, Kabbalah al-Ha'atid, which is to commit to the future, to make a decision. Once again, this is just your inner work. You are making a decision to make a tweak or a change in some area. And really, the best way is to go so small. Like I remember when we came back from the trip, we said, I think on the last day, we're like, everyone what are you going to do when you come home? And everyone's like, I'm going to change the world. We're going to stuff out everything. Right? And then we said, like, whatever you decided, like, cut it in half and then cut it in half again, right? Because the big things won't last. We have to take something small and really create change. So the third is the committing to the change. And then the fourth is what we call vidui, which is a personal confession. It's a verbal, it's saying I'm sorry to God. Okay. So far, this is just verbalizing, right? Admitting to yourself, acknowledging, regretting, feeling it, okay? If you don't feel it, it didn't happen, okay? Committing to the future and then verbalizing it to yourself. Vidui is the prayer that one says before dying, okay? Vidui is the prayer that we say on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's the prayer where it's customary to kind of like make small, like, claps, it's called, that's Hebrew or Yiddish, like a little tap over your heart. I'm sorry that I spoke Lashon Hara. I'm sorry that I may have, I don't know, screamed at my kids too much. I'm sorry that I got angry. I'm sorry. So we should write our own. We should literally write our own. It would be scary. Yeah, no, when you do it, because even though, like, let's say one says, like my sin for stealing. Now, no one here has stolen, right? But we could steal someone's knowledge. That might be copyright, right? We could steal someone's time. Right? There's many ways. So when we look at these words, I think we actually do check off every box, even if we didn't physically steal something, God forbid. But there are many ways, and that's why there's like prayer books have a lot of commentary to them. And if you want, you could really like read a little bit. And I would really suggest taking a mafsar and reading a little bit before you stand to say these words, to really know what you're saying. So there's one more that's not written here, but there is another step. Okay, so you guys, so far we're acknowledging, we're regretting, we're remorseful, we're committing to the future, we're verbalizing it, and then there's one final step. Okay, now this step, okay, so if you do that, you have done teshuvah. Okay, now there is the final step. Doesn't always happen, or sometimes it takes time till it happens, but the final step of the process is if you are put back in the situation that you were before, if you overcome the situation, then you have completed the teshuvah. Meaning, if you're saying, I'm so sorry for gossiping, I am committing not to do it, I regret it, committing not to do it for the future, God, please, I am sorry. I am so sorry that I gossiped about so-and-so, okay? And then you have now completed teshuvah. You could go into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur saying, I did teshuvah for my sin. We could do this for every sin, right? It's a lot, a lot. And then when God puts you back in a situation where you're with your friends and you're out to dinner, you might have drank a little bit too much wine and you're and you're talking about somebody or whatever it is, then are you going to commit? Are you going to stay with your commitment? That's kind of where you know your teshuvah worked or not. What? Someone said something. Oh, Siri? Okay. I thought it was someone on the screen. Okay, so that's the final step, right? In making sure, like sometimes we know we've come so far. And I'm not calling anyone out here, but there are many women in this room that have been learning and growing in their Judaism, in their traits, in their between man and fellow man, between man and God. I'm not going to call you guys out, but you guys know who you are, that have been learning for a long time. And sometimes in the beginning, everything feels like a struggle, right? But if you have a little bit of time and under your belt, you look back and you could hardly recognize because you've come such a far way. We call Rosh Hashanah, right? Like the head of the year, right? But the word Shana has a few different meanings. So Shana means year, technically, right? Shinui means change, and Sheni means a second time. Okay, so there's a few different ways of understanding this head of the year, this big day, why we're calling it what we're calling it. So either we could look at it as here we are again, right? Oh, let's do this again. It's the second time. It's Rosh Hashanah again. I really hope this Rosh Hashanah is going to be very different from last year's, but right, amen. Right? So, but Rabbi Akiva Tatz, he says that Rosh Hashanah is not coming back to where we started. He says it's a spiral, that when we keep going and growing, we're never at the same place that we started. So Shinui is the way that we're going to try to go with this Rosh Hashanah, which means change. We're going to go into this Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, with change in the air, that we're not the same person because we've all grown and we don't plan to be the same person in a year from now. We're not coming right back where we started. We're going to take a year. We're committing. We're regretting. We're, accepting. We're seeing it. We're verbalizing it. God, we want to grow. Please let our growth be gentle, because often growth comes with some struggles, right? That's how people grow. It's never like smooth, right? So please, God, let our growth be gentle so that when we come back next Rosh Hashanah, next Erev Rosh Hashanah, we will be very proud to stand before you and ask for another year because we'll have proven that we're worth giving another year to. So I think I'm going to end with this. Yeah. Shana Tova, everybody.
I just want to say that this was an excellent class.
Johanna, I always say that. Love you guys. Very excited, guys. I'm going to be teaching a class on Rosh Hashanah. Well, we're doing 2 classes. I'm teaching on Monday, and I don't know the time, but maybe 10 o'clock again. Monday, and then Tuesday, I'm co-teaching with Susie. And yeah, so that's next week, Monday and Tuesday. So nice to have you. And everyone take your matches and send us your pictures. It could be just like this, or thank you, Doris. Or it could be with your candles. I want to see everyone's candles. Yeah? Thank you. Shana Tova, all the best. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Shana Tova.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You need to read this whole thing. You'll need to read this whole article. You can go to h.com. It's on their front page. So powerful. Let me just close this.